Hey everybody, this is Josh McKinney, and I just want to welcome you to episode 166 of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. So today, if you're watching the video, you're like, Josh, you're shooting at the weird angle again. You're not at the angle, the lion's not in the background. I'm confused. Am I even watching the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show? Well, my bad. The office is a mess. In 2 weeks, I'll tell you a little more about why. Yeah, the normal angle just ain't hitting it. I'm holding the microphone in my hand like I'm some sort of comedian or something. So, yeah, things aren't looking good for the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show, guys. We're pretty much running on fumes at this point. No, I'm just joking. But at the beginning of the year, we'll be back to a normal angle with better lighting and better all those things, and I won't be holding my mic in my hands. I'll actually have a microphone stand. I kind of like holding the mic in my hand though. I'm stage trained. I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm pretty stage trained. When I went to a Baptist school, and they pretty much assumed that we were all going to be pastors, right? At least all the boys. Women can't be pastors. Women can't own property or anything like that. But that's terrible. That was just a joke. But they assumed that, they were prepping us all to be pastors. And so we would have to, I think when I got to like sixth grade, once a week or once every 2 weeks or something like that, I would have to like lead our morning chapel. And so that's where my mic skills came from. That's where my ability to just pretend that I knew what I was talking about, but I just rambled. That's where that came from. If you guys ever wondered where that skill developed from. Yeah. So if you're needing to become a better podcaster, be sure to go to a Baptist school when you're a kid and do that whole thing. But anyway, let's talk about what today's episode is going to be about. What drama we're going to even talk about in the episode. Oh my gosh. Drama on the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. It's not really that juicy of drama. It was just there's a famous YouTuber that I thought got a little hate that he didn't deserve, and I thought he handled it really, really well. And so I just thought I would talk about that, mention that on the episode. But anyway, really excited about today's episode because it is sandwiched between two interviews. If you guys didn't know, the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show is putting out interviews on Tuesdays now, and continuing with your same way too long rant style episode coming out every Thursday. And so next week, I'll tell you guys in the episode who we have coming on next week, but it's a very exciting guest and it is really good. But I really am sandwiched between two interviews with content creators. Actually, these next two episodes that are going to come out are both about creating content. I'm going to talk to you guys next week about whether or not you should start a YouTube channel or podcast in 2023, or some type of content creation in 2023. So be sure to stay tuned. Be sure to subscribe to the show for that. And yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this episode, answering whether or not I think you could get your black belt using only YouTube. And not only that, but if let's say it were possible, how I would actually approach trying to get my black belt using only YouTube. Let's get to the episode. Could you get your black belt using only YouTube? Not, hey, what if you were training on a team and then you only learned YouTube techniques? But actually, this is kind of the thought exercise that I was playing with. If you had a group of 6 people, I think 6 is a really good amount to go with, because you will get a lot of variety. Even if you guys are the same training or the same size, you're going to learn differently, and you're probably going to bring different athletic attributes to the table that will help your team deal with it. I think with only 2 people, this thought exercise becomes a lot more complex. But let's say you can get a group of six. Could you get your black belt? I think a good place to start with this whole episode is to just talk about why there is still a bit of a negative stigma about learning jujitsu through YouTube or wherever else, Instagram, Patreon, any of the platforms that people post jujitsu techniques and jujitsu ideas. Or could you even learn jujitsu from a podcast, right? Uh, when I first started jujitsu was 2008, and obviously the internet was a thing. People were posting things on the internet, but YouTube was not what it is today. Content creators were not what they are today. um, what I mean by that is when you start to search for jujitsu on YouTube, you will find a bunch of different people, and maybe some of them teach you stuff, but some of them just make videos that you want to consume. They make rolling footage that you like to watch, or they make videos that are kind of related to training jujitsu that you want to watch. And there really wasn't that when I started. Most of the people that posted stuff on YouTube really didn't know what they were talking about. There weren't really very many good grapplers that were posting on YouTube. And so there was this idea that the only way to get views would be to post crazy stuff that probably doesn't work. I think that was what YouTube was for a long time. And so many coaches were so anti YouTube. They would say things like, "Hey, don't come and try YouTube techniques. You shouldn't be watching YouTube for your jujitsu. You should only be learning what we're teaching on the mat." And maybe that then was just a closed off mentality, but maybe there was some realness to that. Maybe there was some actually good reason for that, because there was a really popular YouTube channel. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but they would do all of these different crazy submissions and teach all kinds of stuff. And then as it came out later on, the person that was putting out these videos wasn't belted in jujitsu at all. They really had never trained jujitsu. They're just trying to find cool looking things that people might watch on YouTube. And so since there was this chance that what you were watching wasn't good, and as a brand new white belt, how would you know whether or not what you're watching was good? So I think that's where a big part of the YouTube hatred that you will hear comes from. Okay. But we're in a different age. We're in an age that you're sitting in your car and you're listening to some random guy that you've never met before who's talking in his office about learning jujitsu. That wasn't happening back then, right? And yes, the random guy you're talking about is a black belt. You can check he has accolades. So of course that makes it much easier, right? But there's so much more value that you could be getting out of all of these different perspectives that are on YouTube now, they're on podcasts now. But for most people, they still look at Instagram, they still look at YouTube, they look down on those things. But now, as they're starting to get a little more money in those places, you're starting to get a lot better instruction in those places. So, back to the original question, is there enough out there that is free that I think someone or that group of six that we were talking about could get to black belt? And how long would it take them? I think if you had six actually dedicated individuals and they did no other private lessons, they did no seminars, they only got to train with each other. I wholeheartedly believe that with just what is out free content wise, as long as they had a little bit of guidance on what content to start with, I think it would be possible. And so that is kind of, obviously I could just end the podcast right there. Oh, it's over. I think you could. But now let's actually dig into how I think that it would be possible. And then we're going to look at some ideas on kind of some of what's going on in the YouTube world. Maybe there's even some drama that's going on in the jiu-jitsu YouTube world. And we're going to speculate on that because, hey, yeah, I do post the podcast on YouTube, but I'm by no means a YouTuber, right? So I can kind of sit back from my perch and talk about what I think is going on. And we're going to get into all of that in this episode. So I think a big place, this would be the biggest criteria on whether or not somebody could learn on YouTube or not, or if they could get to black belt from YouTube. And it would be this: what structure do you have? I think for most of us, we agree that learning techniques, learning different ideas, learning different strategies is very important to getting better at jiu-jitsu. But there is still something missing. You still need to decide what you should be working when. You still need to decide how you should be working the things that you're working, how you are getting better. So I am of the opinion that without one really valuable piece, it wouldn't be possible. And what would that piece be? If I'm being totally honest with you guys, I think it would be the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show or another jiu-jitsu learning podcast. And the reason that I go podcast and why that would be important for jiu-jitsu learning is because YouTube videos tend to be very trimmed and very very concise with the idea that they are giving. Now, the problem is jiu-jitsu grappling is not clear and concise. You can't just learn a list of 10 moves, but with something like a podcast, and there are multiple out there that you could use, but let's just say the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show, something where you are getting the perspectives of multiple coaches, you will be learning how they think you should be teaching, how they think you should be sparring, how they think, what training methods they think works. You can also look in, you can really ask anything at this point. I mean, I have 170 episodes of the show or somewhere around there. There are jiu-jitsu podcasts that have more than like twice, almost 3 times as many episodes that I do, where they are interviewing high level black belts. So the ideas, the content is out there. But I think sticking to one would really help the structure. I think that we talk about this idea of jiu-jitsu language, how important it is to have a common language at your gym or with your team. What that means is I can take, sometimes I'll teach a class and maybe I will teach, I've been referencing this idea, I talk about this idea a lot. Maybe I teach the idea of distance management as it pertains to guard passing or guard play, whatever. But a topic that I talk about a lot is understanding where your chest is. That's kind of how we talk about the distances that there are from guard passing. And so chest over chest is a really common one where we are, as the top player, offensive. What's happening there is you're driving your opponent's shoulders into the mat. And that is kind of the first goal of pinning somebody, is pinning their big joints, both of their shoulders, both of their butt cheeks. That is the goal of pinning, right? And what chest over chest does is it puts you at an angle where it kind of pins all 4 points. And then you can start to focus on leg pummeling, on collecting better underhooks, on getting closer to your opponent from there. The other distance would be chest over hips. Chest over hips, if you watch any jiu-jitsu, all the offense of the bottom player is pretty much going to come from chest over hips. Very, very seldom. There are a few other distances I could talk about, but most of the time, the offense of the bottom player comes when your opponent, the top player, their chest is over your hips. Your triangles, your arm bars, all those other things. You can put somebody in a triangle and then have them go chest over chest on you with that triangle, and they'll start to stack you and it'll make your triangle pretty ineffective. But you go to that triangle and they are chest over your hips, you're going to be able to finish them, right? It took me 2 minutes to explain that. Once I've explained that once, and maybe I give a lot of context text a lot of context. I teach an entire class on this idea. I start to show my guys, this is what this means from all these different positions. It applies to all these different positions. And now I can take that 30-minute explanation that I gave to my students that they all got to drill and they all got to train, and I can replace that whole 30-minute explanation with one term: chest over chest. That is jujitsu language. Anytime we can take some big idea, some big thing that we need to be working, and turn it into a few words or a sentence, something that then whoever knows that language, whoever knows that term, I can just say, yeah, chest over chest, and then go into the next idea that I want to discuss. It's the importance of having a common language. I've talked about this on the show before, but I'll reference it again as a little bit of a teaser. Next Tuesday, because we're releasing interviews on Tuesday now. Next Tuesday, I have Jake Luigi from Less Impressed, More Involved. It's a YouTube channel. I've told you guys about the YouTube channel. I really enjoy it. Something that Jake does on the YouTube channel is he really deconstructs Danaher. That is really, I think, the main purpose of this YouTube channel. Of course, they look at other competitors. Jake looks at other competitors and other people, but the main person he looks at is Gordon. The main instructionals he watches are Danaher's and Gordon's, and he does a really good job, especially using the Danaher language to explain what is happening. Because I watch Danaher explain something on an 8-hour instructional does not mean that I actually understand it. When somebody goes and watches the whole 8-hour instructional and then maybe tweaks it and kind of puts it in their own words like Jake does, it allows me to kind of get a better understanding of what Danaher means when he's talking about offensive cycles, what he means when he's talking about defensive cycles. When somebody else explains that to me again, then I can really start to understand. And again, I learned that language, just like what an offensive cycle is, right? A lot of us understand what that is because Danaher taught us that part of the jiu-jitsu language. And I think with a YouTube channel, with all of the YouTubes, as the kids say, I think you would need something that would give you a common language, a common idea. And with a podcast, just because the amount of content that is on a podcast, like you look at mine at 170 episodes, there are well over 200 hours, it's probably 250 hours of pure jiu-jitsu ideas and content. And the beauty of it is a lot of it comes from me. A lot of these ideas, maybe we will talk to somebody on the podcast. We'll talk to a coach. Our most listened to interview this year was with Jeff Serafin. And Jeff talks about all these different ideas on drilling and micro drilling and what that means, right? And on the podcast, we often talk about the idea of how to get good at jiu-jitsu. You only need two things. You need understanding and you need repetition. And drilling for us, micro drilling, these are just ways to get repetition. Positional sparring, that is a way to get repetition. But because you guys have that context as I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show listeners, it allows you to hear someone talk about micro drilling and say, yeah, this is the most important thing. Everyone should be doing it. And you can go back to our original thoughts from the podcast, the original beliefs of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. And you can say to yourself, micro drilling, super important. Okay, maybe I try it and maybe I love it. Maybe that's the way I should be getting my repetition, and maybe I get my understanding from YouTube. I get my understanding from some of the channels that I'm going to talk about at the end of the episode. But I still need to get repetition. The only way I'm going to know that is with something that is more complete. And I just would argue that a lot of the podcasts out there for jiu-jitsu are a bit more complete. Obviously, they're less specific. I can't I don't do match breakdowns on the show. I can't do technique breakdowns on the show, right? There's a huge hole in if you were just trying to use the Isaka Jiu-Jitsu show to get better. You would need to fill that hole with different perspectives, different ideas, and different techniques. And I think that there is enough on YouTube to use some type of common understanding. Maybe you buy a bunch of Danaher instructionals, and that is kind of the lens you're going to look at jujitsu through. And then you still get a lot of other perspectives. You watch a lot of other channels. I think that would be the hardest thing if you were trying to, with this group of 6 guys to get to black belt level, to be great grapplers. I think the hardest thing would be just having one perspective on the mat. So maybe even 3 of the guys are avid I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show listeners, but the other 3 just can't stand me. And I get that. And those 3, maybe they listen to a different podcast, or maybe their structure comes from a different place. But I really think that to kind of start out, you will need some type of basic understanding, basic idea of structure, and then you can fill that in with all of the free content that is on YouTube, all of the free content that's on the gram, just all of the free content that's out there. Now let's kind of start to look at the pitfalls of YouTube, right? I kind of pushed that it's all sunshine and rainbows on youtube.com, and it is not. There's a lot of crap. We talked about this on the episode, I think maybe 2 weeks ago. We talked about 5 things that white belts don't always understand. It really be important for them to understand. And I always like to fall back to this idea that there are no absolute truths in jiu-jitsu. There is no one idea that is just by far superior to all the others, and that idea won't get changed or tweaked a little bit, or just understood better. I just don't believe that there are those things. Now, this creates a problem. How would you know if what you are watching is actually helpful for your jiu-jitsu? Because there is so much content now. And a lot of it, the real goal of that content may not be to teach you jiu-jitsu. The goal of that content may just be to get you to watch, may just be to get you to watch through the whole video, may just be to get you to click on the link to subscribe to whatever. So maybe not everything that you see on YouTube is going to be good. And so I think that it is it's kind of important to go on this negative rant for a second. I think that maybe it's just because I've been thinking about this way too much. Maybe I shouldn't go on this rant, but I will. Most YouTubers on jiu-jitsu in the jiu-jitsu world actually aren't very good. And I know that sounds offensive. I'm not going to name anybody or list anybody off, but generally, I watch a lot of jiu-jitsu stuff. And I really enjoy watching the stuff that is made just to get you to watch. But it's always pushed from this context of you're learning, right? Understand a lot of the videos you watch on YouTube, you're not learning from them. Somebody just talking about what they're doing while they're rolling, and using really long words and using the right Danaher language, that doesn't always translate to actually helping you get better at jiu-jitsu. That's why, like I referenced already, that's why I really like the Lesson Press More Involved channel, because it is match breakdowns, but they talk a lot about trends. They talk about things that actually can help you get better because they make jiu-jitsu simpler and smaller. Somebody talking about, well, the fulcrum of this arm lock is here. And so I was trying to grab his fulcrum and twist it. Like, that doesn't help anybody. A lot of times, Jiu-Jitsu YouTube is built around stroking the ego of the YouTuber. Is built around the whole influencer lifestyle that there is. This isn't just in the jiu-jitsu world. The whole influencer thing is, obviously, it's popular. It's big everywhere now. So many people, so many kids now are growing up wanting to be some type of influencer, some type of person that has a diet show, has a cooking show, has a jiu-jitsu show. But just because somebody has this show, just because somebody has a podcast, just because they have whatever, does not make their opinion valid. It does not make their opinion the best thing for you either. And so I would just kind of like, I guess how I will exit this statement, and I'll get back to it again in a second. I would start to pay attention to who you watch on YouTube. And just a simple question is, you can ask, does this actually help me get closer to my jiu-jitsu goals? Or is it just me wasting time? Because a lot of times we can watch YouTube, we can watch Instagram, we can watch these things and go, yeah, I'm studying right now. But it's not actually helping me. It's not actually helping me understand jiu-jitsu more deeply. It's not actually helping me grow as a grappler. And keep in mind, like I said, that doesn't always have to be. Doesn't have to be the reason that you watch YouTube. But I see so many people out. I like to ask my students, well, who have you been watching? You know, because like, I think when you first start, it is incredibly common to start watching YouTube. It's free. When you first start anything, it's common to start watching YouTube for it. And I think a lot of times it gives you a really good general idea. And there are people out there that you can watch on YouTube, and they're amazing. And we'll kind of get into that. Yeah, you know what? I think we'll just get into that now. I'm going to tell you guys about some of my favorite jiu-jitsu YouTubes, and we'll break them down, and we'll kind of look at how you could be using them. And like I said, I won't go into any of the negatives. I won't go into any of the shows that I don't like or any of the channels I don't like. But I guess we'll leave with this on top of the, is it helping you with your jiu-jitsu goals? Also, look at the person that is putting out the stuff that you are consuming. Look at that person and say, is this somebody that I want to be? Is this somebody I want to be like? Because on YouTube channels, jiu-jitsu or not, you will hear some of the most douchey stuff that you've ever heard. You will hear some of the most ego-driven stuff. And it's like, to be a content creator, you do almost have to have an ego. And actually, next week, I'm going to talk about, title of the episode is, should you start a YouTube or podcast in 2023? And we're going to talk about how hard it is to be a content creator, but how important it is that we get more content creators trying to break in. How important it is that we get more content creators trying to grow their brands, because too few choices is not going to be good for a lot of the jiu-jitsu world. Because what if, there are like 10 choices to watch on YouTube channels right now. What if 7 of them are tools? Those are the people that are going to be shaping jiu-jitsu for the next generation. Think about how many people in jiu-jitsu right now think it is okay to trash other people on Instagram because they saw Gordon do it. It's not okay to do that. If you are not willing to say something to somebody's face, don't post it on Instagram. You look foolish. Would you like to buy my privates? Okay, that sounded a little off. Would you like to buy my full package of privates? Okay, that also sounded off. I think that we need, as a jiu-jitsu community, to do away with the word privates. Not a great word for private lessons, especially when you consider that a lot of black belts that are doing privates are also giving people their privates. And so, it's a whole mess. So what I decided to call mine, at least the ones I'm telling you about right now, is a private podcast. So I assume if you're this far into the episode, you like listening to the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. When you listen to the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show, you're basically inviting me in your car, in your headphones, in whatever, to discuss jiu-jitsu with you for 45 minutes to an hour. Now, with a private podcast, you get to do the same thing. You get to listen to me talk jiu-jitsu for 45 minutes to an hour, except a difference is it's on a Zoom call, and you will be able to talk to me, ask me questions about pretty much any problem that you may be having in jiu-jitsu, and we can look at solving them together, and then even how we solve that problem, so the next time you deal with it, you have a good way to deal with it and solve it on your own. What we also can look at is how your schedule is to the goals that you are setting for your jiu-jitsu, what goals you should be setting in your jiu-jitsu. It's almost like private coaching, but not with techniques. It is not, hey, these are the moves that I like to do, but these are the opinions that I have towards the situation that you're in, and here's how we can get you to where you want to be. And so if that interests you, if a private podcast interests you, then all you have to do is go to simplifyingjujitsu.com/private, and there is a scheduler. You can pay and schedule right there, and schedule a Zoom meeting for me. It'll take about an hour, and we can discuss any topic you want, anything I talk about on the show, or even things that I don't discuss on the show, even things that I avoid talking about on the show. And we can talk about all of those things, and like I said, build some goals and help you crush them in 2023. Also, this makes a really good gift if you are, one of the wives that has to listen to the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show while you're in the car because your husband has a man crush on Josh McKinney. It's a perfect Christmas present. You get to give him that little piece of extra jiu-jitsu, and you don't have to listen to me because it won't be on your car. It'll be on a Zoom meeting. That's all I have for you. Let's go ahead, as this commercial is this is the worst commercial I've ever done. But yeah, simplifyingjujitsu.com/private, and you can schedule to get my privates. Let's get back to the episode. So now let's talk about some channels that I do like. And I wanted to start with one. And I don't know if I've referenced this one on the show for a while, but I saw some good drama, and I thought I would speculate on it. And let me preface this. I don't know anything that I'm about to say right now to be true. This is just what I have, sitting on my computer, have seen. So a few weeks ago, there was this video, and I don't remember what the name of the kid that posted it. It's Tyler something. I should have had that written down. That's my bad. Tyler Spangler, I think is what it is. But he lists all the YouTube channels, and he gives them rankings. Okay. And honestly, I agreed with a lot of the rankings that he gave, but there was one that was totally off, in my opinion. And it was Chewy's. He gave Chewy's channel a B ranking. Keep in mind, there was A and S tier above that. The most popular channel on YouTube. For a lot of us, Chewy was our first online instructor, and he gave him a B. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? Not without talking about the numbers, without talking about just how many people he has helped learn jiu-jitsu. We just can look at it from this perspective. I think that that original video, kind of the criteria, was on was looking at things outside of jiu-jitsu and how their influencers look and how their influencers put out content. And the big complaint was, well, most of the videos are just him talking anymore. But that's kind of the reason that Chewy is who Chewy is. I think for most people, when you first start your first 6 months to a year, I see no reason to probably watch any other YouTube channel other than Chewy's if you're trying to learn off jujitsu or you're trying to learn, trying to get better at jujitsu using YouTube. The reason I say that is because one, most of his stuff that he puts out, anybody can do. Most of the techniques that he shows, they're from half guard, they're smash passing, they are incredibly simple. He's done it longer than anybody by far. And so these ideas that he talks about, these things, these ways of teaching that he does, these have been perfected over hundreds of seminars. They have been perfected over hundreds of videos. And three, those talking videos are so important because back to the original reference, most people online that are trying to be content creators, whether they're in the jiu-jitsu space or not, they come off pretty douchey. They come off pretty better than other people. And I think that that is something that I've never seen on Chewy's channel, is like trying to act like he is better than he is, trying to say that he could beat people that he can't. You just don't see those things, and those talking videos, they push a mindset, they push a value that I think is getting forgotten in the whole 2022 jiu-jitsu space. And that is simply having respect for your teammates. That is simply having respect for yourself. And that's what those talking head videos do a lot. They are on the simplicity of, okay, I got beat up last night, how should I handle it? They are on things like that we all go through in jiu-jitsu, and maybe we don't get to have that conversation with our coach. But I guarantee you, if that situation happens, Chewy's got a video about it. So that is what I'm going most trusted channel that I would just absolutely endorse. That one. That is my first one. It has been for years. But I just think that as a whole, that channel, if I'm changing that video, Tyler, that channel should have an S rank. But let's go into next. Okay, another good friend of mine, John Thomas. I think that, yes, with Chewy's channel, there is probably there's probably a point where you will start to outgrow it when you are getting a lot better at jiu-jitsu. But that's just because that's who he aims for. He aims for beginners, the average Joe walking into a gym and just trying to learn jiu-jitsu. A deeper reference, if you guys have read the Three Lenses ebook, you will probably identify Chewy and the methods that he pushes as an athletic lens. He sees jiu-jitsu, he teaches jiu-jitsu at least from the athletic lens, which is really focused on your repetition, which is really focused on what you're doing off the mats. Are you lifting weights? Are you dieting? Are you getting enough rest? Really focused on the whole picture of starting jiu-jitsu and getting your feet wet into jiu-jitsu. And then also I didn't finish the little part of drama before I moved on. The little drama that I noticed, Chewy actually made a response video to that. And Chewy doesn't make response videos to anything. He pretty much just lets people have whatever opinion that they want, and then usually just does his own thing, right? You get to do that when you are the original jiu-jitsu YouTuber. But he did respond to this video, and he just explained, I thought he did a very good job on how he responded. Because to me, if I was him, I might have been offended by that video. And I think he was too. But he did something really cool. He posted that video. He talked about, yeah, this is why I like to do videos this way. I don't like to do like rolling footage as much, right? He just said doesn't like to do it as much. And then he did what none of the YouTubers are doing right now. He went and competed and he won. I have a show. It's called the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. So every time I lose, I have this out. Well, like, hey, the name of my show is the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show, right? Still, even with 1/100th of the views, that the I guess followers that Chewy has, like that's probably how many I have compared to him, like 1/100th. It is still hard to go out and compete. There is still extra pressure. This dude went out and fought at Nogi Worlds. He didn't fight at some local random tournament, fought at Nogi Worlds and won. And then he posted on Instagram, not bad for a YouTuber, right? And to me, I think that was a little bit of that drama. That was a little bit of the frustration of, I'm sure that there is probably this frustration of this new group of YouTubers. And they're coming in and they're trying to get views. That's what they're all doing, right? But still, I just thought that was one of the greatest ways to handle that video, because that video got a lot of views. A lot of people saw it, and I'm sure a lot of people even agreed and said, oh yeah, I don't like Chewy's videos as much anymore or whatever. But he went out and he competed and he won. And you're not seeing any other YouTubers right now that are doing that are going out and competing at, obviously it was in his age division, but still going out and competing at the highest level. That's why Chewy is my top one, the one that I reference first. Now we'll talk John Thomas. As you start to grow a little bit, maybe you decide you want to be a gi-focused grappler. I think the place you should go is John Thomas. I think that he's got some of the best instruction and ideas when it comes to the gi, maybe even by far. And this is, I would say I'm probably a little biased. I have trained with John quite a bit, but I can also say that John is probably one of the best grapplers, if not the best grappler that posts on YouTube right now. And that's not to say that the other guys that I'm referencing are not great, but I'm just saying John is like, when we talk about the tiers of YouTubers, we'll talk about the tiers of grappling. His jiu-jitsu ability is S tier. It is God level. And this is coming from me. I outweigh John by 40 pounds probably a lot of the time. And, I competed adult black belt. Like that's the highest level that you can compete at. When I roll with John, I don't know if I've at adult black belt rolled with somebody who is as technically good as John Thomas. And he really understands what he's doing in these situations. He really understands how to grapple, really understands how to do gi jiu-jitsu. And it's pretty next level. I would even say that, like, obviously people will look at Danaher as the no-gi guy when it comes to the ideas of grappling. It comes to coaching and things like that. But I would say when it comes to level of understanding, that is the level that John is at. He is at that Danaher level in the gi. He also, I think, back to the lenses, I think that he is somebody who looks at jiu-jitsu through the scientific lens, somebody who can, for hours, problem solve and say, this is better. No, this is better. This is the best way to do it. And to me, I love that because he does those hours and hours and hours of research and then delivers me his findings in a 5-minute video. So that would be, if you're wanting to be a gi guy, that would be where I would go. What if you're wanting to be a no-gi guy? What if you're into no-gi only? I think a place that I would start would honestly be B Team. And I know that their channel is newer. They haven't posted as much yet, but what I see from that channel, what I see from obviously that team is kind of the artistic lens of jujitsu. And these guys all came from Danaher, which would are probably the scientific lens, the lens of problem solvers, the lens of systems, right? Now these guys have a lot of different perspectives. They've got, like obviously whatever happened for the team to break up, but their team broke off from what is now New Wave, John Danaher's team. So a lot of their ideas come from there. But then since they have a cool name and they have a cool persona and a cool brand, they're in the mecca of jujitsu in America right now, being Austin, Texas. People are going to visit. People are going to sign up there. You're starting to get a wider range of grapplers. And they're using good training method. And they have all these different perspectives now. What is going to continue to happen is the system, in quotes, is going to be very different. And this is just my opinion, but it's going to be very different than the new wave system because you have so many new perspectives. You have so many new ideas. And I think that that's going to get boiled down. I think that that channel is going to be even better than it is. That when you're looking for entertainment, I think it's the most entertaining YouTube channel there is right now. You get to watch the highest level competitors in the training room doing these 45-minute rounds, and they're actually training. They're actually in the training room. It is not staged. It's not me rolling with one of my blue belts, just thrashing him, saying, look at all this cool stuff that I can pull off. You're seeing how the best athletes in jiu-jitsu right now, at least the best Nogi athletes in jiu-jitsu, you're seeing how they're training. And that's super exciting to me. Now we'll go ahead and talk about our next guest, our guest on Tuesday, Less Impressed, More Involved. Now, I think that this is definitely a channel that I would recommend on the list of 5, right? The 5 channels that I think you could just go with and learn unlimited jiu-jitsu from. And the reason that I think that this is one of the best is because a lot of the best instructional content out there is Danaher and Gordon. I watch Danaher and Gordon and learn stuff for the gi by how they explain stuff, right? Learn ideas that can be applied to the gi, and it's all no gi stuff. And it's just because they are that far ahead than most people, most thinking. But I think you need somebody to decode it. At least I do. I think if you're really intelligent, maybe you don't. But this I am not. I I need somebody that can watch 8 hours of Danaher and boil it down into a few important sentences and show me some match criteria that will help me do that. And I think what Jake, and we get into this on his episode of the Isoka Jiu-Jitsu show, what he does really well is he looks at the most current jiu-jitsu happening right now. Like every time there is a jiu-jitsu event, he's got a video about that event coming out within a week or two. And so it's going to keep you up to date because jiu-jitsu is changing. I have an episode at the very end of the year where it's crazy. I almost think we shouldn't post it, but I will. It's predictions for grappling 10 years into the future. Spoiler alert, jiu-jitsu dies at the end of that video or at the end of that episode. But what we talk about is how much jiu-jitsu is evolving, how much it is growing and getting bigger. The more people that we have doing jiu-jitsu, the more black belts that we're going to have, the more black belts that we are going to have that are trying to create content, that are trying to put out good stuff, the more jiu-jitsu is going to grow in every little nook and cranny on the planet. The more that happens, the better jiu-jitsu is going to become. You're going to have way more minds focused on getting better at jiu-jitsu. You're going to have more ideas. You're going to have smarter people doing this. more money is going to come in, and more people are going to figure out how to try to get that money out. Hopefully I didn't ruin that whole episode that I have planned for the future. But I think right now, a lot of us would agree that Danaher is one of the best guys to be listening to right now. It just seems to be that step ahead of most people. And I think Jake just does such a great job of explaining what he's talking about and explaining it in a 15-minute YouTube video instead of an 8-hour instructional. And then the last YouTube channel that I will push, and really, I probably shouldn't push this one because I have a jiu-jitsu production company. And so pushing another jiu-jitsu production company's YouTube channel isn't very smart. But you can, this is kind of a cheap answer too, because it is two answers. But BJJ Fanatics has two different channels. They have a Bernardo Faria one, and then the regular BJJ Fanatics where they just show random clips of the different instructionals. My favorite one is the Bernardo one, because you have a host who is Bernardo that gets to ask usually just one important question for a really high level coach, or one important technique. And then he'll even ask, there'll be a little back and forth, and he'll ask a few other thoughts on it or something like that. And to me, some of the best details I've gotten from YouTube, but even the best details I've gotten just in general, have come from that channel. And I think it comes from that channel because you get so many different perspectives on that channel. On Chewy's, you get Chewy's perspective. It's a great perspective. On John's, you get John's perspective. It's a great perspective. All those are like one perspective, though. BJJ Fanatics channel, you get a lot of perspective. And that sometimes you're going to throw away some of the ideas. Sometimes you're not going to like some of the ideas. But for me, I think that is like the best for multiple perspectives. And so yeah, we could say both BJJ Fanatics, but we could also just say Bernardo Faria. And that is pretty much all that I have to say about whether or not you could earn your black belt using YouTube. Or I guess a better way to say it is whether or not, how you could do it if you are sitting in the middle of nowhere with no jiu-jitsu experience with 5 buddies and you all want to get to black belt. That's how I would do it. Obviously, if you were to compete and get to actually test your ideas and test your jiu-jitsu, that would be super helpful for your growth. Obviously, if you could do seminars, that would be helpful for your growth. The more rolling outside of those 6 people, I think it would be really helpful. But if it was possible, if you were just locked into a room, you're locked into a room with only 5 other of your friends, I really do think that is how I would approach getting my black belt. And I absolutely think that we're in a golden age of jiu-jitsu information. And I think that it would pop off. I think that you would be able to do it. That's all I have for you guys. And that is the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys didn't just like delete the Isaka Jiu-Jitsu show because, this video angle that I have. I figured with my hair being such a mess, my room being such a mess, I would just change it up on you guys, get weird, Speaking of, do you guys think I need a haircut? That do watch the video? I think I'm really getting to a point where I'm pretty over it. It's almost time to go back to the original Josh McKinney cut. The problem with the Josh McKinney haircut right now, though, is everybody freaking has it. Every content creator that you see, they've got, especially in the jiu-jitsu world, they've got the same haircut. Dude, I've been pushing this haircut since 2011, and now everyone thinks it's cool. That's why I started growing my hair out. I can't be doing something that's cool. I don't like that. Can't be doing something that's popular. That would be ridiculous. Says the guy that's into jiu-jitsu that has a podcast like every other person now, right? So just real quick, before we end today's episode, just wanted to make sure that you guys are aware that I'm not committed yet, but I'm pretty committed to trying to put out 2 episodes a week, one being an interview. And so I am getting to a point where I'm starting to need some guests. I kind of asked for some international guests last week, and I got so many cool, cool suggestions. And so I guess versus just asking generically, like, hey, who do you think would be good to have on the show? Giving a little criteria on the type of guest that I am looking for would be, it seems to get people to give a lot more suggestions. And so this week, if you guys that like to suggest stuff to the Isaka Jiu-Jitsu show, I am looking for some coaches that are using different training methods. Just something different that maybe we've talked about on the show, maybe we haven't talked about on the show, but I know that there are people out there that are trying to get people to train differently than just the live rolling, just positional sparring, in just repetitive drilling. I am looking for someone who maybe even would claim to be an expert on the things that are not those 3 types of training: live training, positional sparring, and repetitive drilling, right? Or deadpan drilling, however you want to call that. And so with something like, we talk about designated winner on the podcast a lot. I'm looking for the next designated winner, or a tweak to designated winner, or whatever. But if you guys know of a coach like that, or someone who's not even a coach, just somebody that has really good ideas, forward-thinking ideas on how we could be more efficient and effective in our training method, I would love to hear about it. I would love to hear who you suggest, and I would love to interview them. I would love to try to steal all of their ideas and then implement them at my school. And so if anyone comes to mind on that, send me an email, josh@simplifyingjujitsu.com, or message me on Instagram @thejoshmckinney. You can also just comment on this if you're watching on YouTube or something like that. And that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope I didn't stir up any controversy on the YouTubes. And most importantly, I hope today's episode helps you guys suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu. Have a great day, guys.